Hi, Chef Santi. Um, I thought I'd tell you another story. I was just thinking about it, and I just thought, let me put it on camera before I forget. Um, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got into the industry and um, consequently my first mentor and how I fell in love with the industry based on a couple of factors. So I used to work for my dad, and like many dads, his expectations for me were really, really high. And I had been working for the family businesses ever since I remember. Anyway, but I knew that's not what I wanted to do. I knew that I didn't want to work for my dad. I love him to bits, but I didn't want to work for him. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. I was a new kid in a foreign country, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. My parents were fighting with me about doing, further studies and going to university and so forth and whatever. But I didn't know, and I wasn't sure, and da da da. So my father said, "Okay, well, while if you're not studying, whatever, you're going to have to work. You know, Um, One day I got the carriage and I spoke to my mum first, and I said, "Mum, I don't want to work for Dad anymore. I don't want to do this. I'll do something else." And she just said, "Speak to your dad. I'm going to speak to him." Um, and about 2 weeks went past, and I was working with my dad, and he just looks at me and he goes, "So are you ever going to talk to me?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, your mum says you got something to say to me. She told me like 2 weeks ago, and you still haven't spoken to me." And I'm like, just like I'll talk to you another time. It's just I know that just necessity and whatever. He just went, beep, just talk to me, tell me what it is. So I said, I don't want to do this, and I want to do something else. I don't want to do and blah blah blah. But I know that you need the help and so forth. And he goes, okay, well, if you don't want to do this, and if you want to do something else, go and find that job. Then off you go. I mean, as long as you're not out of work and we're not sustaining you, maintaining you, and so forth, because you can't afford to, just go out there. Now, this was a Saturday that we had this conversation, and the next day, on Sunday, the Spanish community where we lived, there was a Spanish club, and we used to get together. I don't know whether they still do or not, but they used to get together and uh, um, every first Sunday of the month. And there was an opportunity for all the Spaniards to get together and dance and drink and have a little fiesta, basically. Um, and there I am, and I'm with um, my best friend, and I'm walking around with him, thinking we're, all cool and whatever, I guess. And I can see that my dad is talking to his older brother, who used to run a restaurant. And then I chat, and they look at me, and they're both going like this. We go over, and I'm sort of, hey, how you doing, Manolo? How you doing? Hey, yeah, yeah. And he goes, your dad tells me you're looking for a job. And I went like, yeah, yeah, you know. And I'm thinking in my mind, I only spoke to him about it like, yesterday. And Manolo goes like, you ever thought about working in a restaurant? And I'm like, well, not really. So my dad then like goes, well, you start on Monday. And I was like, sorry, what? And he goes like, yeah, it's a Monday. And Manolo goes like, see you Monday, 9 o'clock sharp. So I'm like, what? And he goes, okay, off you go. I'll talk to you later. I'll tell you what you need and whatever later. So off we went, and I'm just looking at my friend and go like, between your brother and my dad, it just sorted out my life again. It's like, anyway, Monday came and I arrived, and my first job is to wash up, like washing up and stuff like that. And The Manolo, the restaurant manager, who it was a family business, who the owners they sort of concentrated in the pub bar area, and their restaurant was a very well known, very highly respected restaurant. By the way, you go there today, and it looks exactly the same to what it did in 1987. Okay, exactly the same. So, and the funny thing is that I was actually there. I was actually there a few years ago, and no one really recognized me. And behind the bar was a son who's my age, the son of the owner, and I swear that it was the same gentleman. He looks exactly like his dad. But anyway, so I'm doing this and whatever, and the a few days go by, whatever, and then Manolo says, "Oh, well, you're going to be helping in every area, by the way, right? So whatever you needed, you're going to be helping." And I went, "Yeah, no problem, whatever." So I'm starting to feel like this buzz, like I'm really enjoying it. Food is great, you're getting sort of like fed by the chef. The head chef was from the Canary Islands, Spanish. The second chef was from Barcelona. And the third chef was Irish. And they went down in scale according to their position. I saying like, like their size. And they were funny people. They were like constantly bickering amongst each other, but their connections was just amazing. This restaurant had only two sections. It had a hot area where all the hot stuff and main courses were done, and it had a cold area where all the starters and platters for the bar and desserts were done, which is where the Irish guy was working. Anyway, one day I got grabbed by the jacket basically, and the chef said, "Right, you need to go and help the Irishman." In Spanish, he said this, right? And I'm going off and he's teaching me how to make this thing, and the first thing he's teaching me how to do is these prawn cocktails, and I'm making these prawn cocktails. So by the way, I now make an homage to that dish at my chef's table, and for the tasting menu. Anyway, so I'm making, learn how to cook the prawns, chop all the lettuce, make the Mayo sauce. I mean, everything, all the trimmings used to go in that glass that goes around and dollop of Mayo sauce and whatever. And it was actually the owner, the old man, who taught me how to perfect the actual Mayo sauce, because I used to be the first one in with him, and he will actually clean and sort out the cellar, get the kegs ready and all that kind of stuff, and I will go in and do all that sort of little prep prior, making the sauces, making the sauce tartare, making all of this. I used to make all of those. Anyway, so that was my beginning in the kitchen, and my first day in the kitchen was one that I remember because I carried a scar. And I remember there was this beautiful waitress used to work in the front of the house, and she comes in through the door of the restaurant, and she's going like, "Where's my thermidor? Where's my lobster thermidor?" And the chef goes, "It's right here," and he had it in his hand in a cloth, and he puts it down on the pass, which was quite high up the pass. There are two levels, but he put it on the top bit. And me thinking, I'm going to be helpful. But knowing nothing about the kitchen, I just went boom, and I put my hand on this aluminium tray that had just come from being under the salamander. And I'm trying to let go of it, and it's completely stuck to me, and the lobster thermidor is going all over the place. Now, I immediately realized that none of the chefs gave a hoot about my hand being stuck to the lobster thermidor plate, but the fact that the lobster thermidor was no good anymore, and they had to make another one. So I'm like, and left my entire skin, which I have a scar here from it, and I said I left my entire skin. Literally, you could see my palm on the actual tray. And I remember the Irish chef I went over to the ice box and put some ice in a cloth, came back and she said, hold on to that. And I'm like, you know, and all day long, I'm still chopping, I'm still doing stuff, holding onto this thing. And I asked for a bottle of water that I could freeze, and I froze that. And I was holding onto this thing, and I'm holding on for dear life to this thing, and the pain. And I remember Manolo coming to me. He goes, like, do you need to go? Do you need to go? Do you need to go to the hospital? You okay? And I'm like, and people, everyone's like, it was one of the busiest days of the year, and everyone's looking at me and whatever, and I'm like, no. And I must have been pale as a ghost. Anyway, the shift ended, and they used to call me El Nino, the kid, until the day I left. And the chef just came along and said, well done, Nino. You know, like, that's what a chef is all about. No matter what, you just keep on going. And that day, I just, even though through all that pain, I was like, I loved that. That was amazing. And eventually my hand healed and you moved on, and I never went back to washing up. And shortly after that, Manolo, who used to run the actual restaurant, the waiters and whatever, said, "Oh, we need you in the front. We need you in the front today, so you need to come, later on, ready for that." And I'm like, for the evening shift. I went, "Oh, okay." So I came back, and it is busy. It is so busy. And back then, I mean, like, people were dying for a long time, especially, the yappies and all that used to come and entertain and spend thousands on lunch. Anyway, so they had this guy who had a table for six, and you can clearly see it was six businessmen, they were still wearing all their attire. And they paid their bill, after spending. They had Petrus, you mentioned the wines, and they had a Dom Perignon, they had a lot. I remember the first time I learned about what a Petrus was and all that kind of stuff, and how expensive it was. It was just ridiculous. The bill was huge. And I'm like, what the heck? Anyway, so they paid the bill, and as they're leaving, all six of them are going, "Oh my God, that was the most amazing meal. Oh, the service is incredible." So we're all standing there, and the waiters say goodbye and goodbye and goodbye. They were the last ones. I hear that, two or three of the senior staff, including Manolo, this one. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I said there was a guy called Alfonso, and I said to him, "Dude, what's going on?" He says, "They haven't left a tip." And I'm like, "Oh, well, they haven't." And I didn't think much of it because I didn't understand. Now, back then, these guys who used to work in the industry, whatever, 75% of their earnings were tips, were gratuities, and they make a hell of a lot of money. So, with that, I hear Manolo says, "Santi, go and grab all their jackets, go by the door and wait for me there. Do not put the jackets on them." So I went, okay. And all of a sudden, I see him going into the restaurant. And as they're coming along, he intercepted them. So they're coming that way, and he intercepted them. But I was watching him coming towards me. And I swear, it was like he was on skates. He had no feet. He was just gliding. I went, "Gentlemen." And he goes, "Oh," and the two of the guys who knew Manolo said, "Hey, Manolo, that was amazing. That was fantastic." "Oh," he goes, "Oh, you did like it. You had a good time." And the guys go, "Well, yes." "Oh, thank goodness for that." And he goes, all the people going like, "What we did was amazing." He goes, "Oh, I'm so happy about that." "Oh." And he goes, "Manolo, why are you saying that?" And he goes like, "The staff are all over there. They're so upset. They're all talking about it, going, somebody did something wrong. Someone didn't look after them right. They're all blaming each other because they didn't tip." And with this, I tell you, I'm not standing there going, did he just tell them off and say, "Get your money out"? And all of a sudden, every single one of them just started getting these wads of cash and going, no, no, no. Who? Oh, we didn't. How could it be? Oh my goodness, it was an oversight. Manolo, you know that I always look after you guys. I am so sorry. He goes, no, 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 I know you do. That's why I was so scared. I was worried that we'd sort of upset you somehow. And all of a sudden, they're going 1, 2, 3, 4. And it just kept on coming and kept on coming and kept on coming. And then wad of money just getting get bigger and bigger and bigger, and everybody's like putting money in his hand, and he's going, and at the same time he's sort of like putting their jackets over them and so on. He goes, gentlemen, I'm so happy that we didn't upset you, that you were happy and that you had an amazing day and da la la all sort of stuff. Manolo, yes we did. And they left feeling completely bad, while he just, with the smoothest. I mean, I only met one other guy many years later who had that kind of smoothness, where he could say and do anything to a client, and the client will be painfully embarrassed that they were the one, a guilt or whatever. But it's just the way that he glided towards these people, the way that he spoke to them, and the mannerism they spoke. That between what happened to me in the kitchen and this master at his trade just did in front of me, that I realized that I had fallen in love with the industry and never looked back. And here we are today, and another one of the amazing stories that make up the history, my history, and so on. So I hope you enjoyed it, and send your story.